Hi, this is Phil Shapiro at the Tacoma Park, Maryland Library. I have been reading an interesting and entertaining book, The Geography of Genius by Eric Weiner, a search for the world's most creative places, from ancient Athens to Silicon Valley. So this is a book that reads like a travel kind of thing. The feeling I got reading this book was a little bit like watching Michael Palin from Monty Python's Flying Circus with his travels show on television, and just funny, interesting. Eric Weiner is a best-selling author of a previous book, The Geography of Bliss. So this is another book of his, The Geography of Genius. This is the back cover of the book. Testimonials. I really like this testimonial from Daniel Pink. His book, A Whole New Mind, is just one of my all-time favorites. It's just a great book. And Daniel Pink says, The Geography of Genius is witty, informative, and compulsively readable. So, and there's some other people who loved the book. Here we go. Here's the inside cover and back inside cover. I'll just read a bit of this. Best-selling author Eric Weiner is no genius. He readily concedes that the chances of sudden Einsteinian brilliance descending upon him are slim. But there's still hope for his young daughter. So he set off around the globe and back through history to examine how creative genius flourishes in specific places and at specific times, hoping to nourish a culture of creativity in his own home. So that is interesting. So he's going to be writing about different cities. And I was kind of expecting that the cities he'd be writing about might be places like Austin, Texas, Portland, Oregon, Toronto, Montreal, Quebec City, all those really interesting creative places. But no, he has other places. Let's take a peek at where he writes about. So here's the different places. Here's the table of contents. Athens, Hangzhou in China, Florence, Edinburgh, Scotland. I love Edinburgh, one of my favorite world cities. Calcutta. I'm going to learn something in that chapter. Vienna, and then Vienna and Silicon Valley. Okay. Here's some quotes I pulled out just to give you a feel for the book. I like this part early in the book. Like Galton, we've been sticking pins in all the wrong places, asking the wrong questions. Rather than asking, what is creativity? A better question is, where is creativity? I'm not speaking of trendy metropolises with lots of sushi restaurants and theaters. Those are the fruits of a creative city, not its source. So that's a really interesting thing. And for me, creativity is also so much connected with courage, and mischief. Courage and mischief. So for me, the interesting questions which he's asking is like, where does courage exist? Where does mischief exist? And what are the conditions in which courage and mischief can thrive? So those are the things. One thing I loved about this book, there's lots more questions than answers, and that made this book really interesting to me. I really don't want to pick up a book that has answers in it. I love to pick up books that have questions in them. Help me think. So here we go. He's now talking about Athens. And in Greece, one petri dish flourished like no other. Athens. The city produced more brilliant minds from Socrates to Aristotle than any other place the world has seen before or since. Only Renaissance Florence comes close. So then he goes in to analyze what was it about Athens. It wasn't the wealth of Athens, or anyway, it goes on. Very interesting. I'll let you read the book. I'm not going to tell you what he found out, that why Athens was the place where some of our greatest thinkers originated from. And then over here in the chapter about Hangzhou, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. This shows his wit. I really like this part here. I once met a reformed coffee addict who told me he was up to 6-7 cups a day when something in him snapped, and he decided to go cold turkey. No more coffee, only tea. Quote, coffee made me think more quickly, but tea made me think more deeply. So that is really interesting. I'm a tea drinker. I used to be a coffee drinker. But I do think tea, makes you more reflective. And then I like this quote over here. We are our most innovative when we have something to push against. Creativity does not require perfect conditions. In fact, it thrives in imperfect ones. The block of marble from which Michelangelo carved his masterpiece, the David, had been discarded by other artists. They considered it defective, and they were right. But Michelangelo saw that defect as a challenge, not a disqualifier. So there's some interesting passages in this book. I like the book. I like this chapter over here, this little piece where he's talking about the people's talent at finding problems. Rather than finding solutions, what is your inclination to find and identify problems? You don't need to be Darwin to develop problem-finding skills. In a landmark study, psychologist Jacob Getzels and a colleague observed 31 art students performing an open-ended task, drawing from a set of given objects. That was it. They were not given any further instructions. Getzels noticed that some of the artists spent more time exploring, manipulating the objects, trying out new configurations. These artists, those engaged in deep problem finding, produce the most creative work. So in our schools, we don't teach our students how to become problem finders, and maybe we should be. Maybe we should be. One hashtag you can follow on Twitter is project-based learning, or #PBL. And those are the people who care about helping students develop skills at finding problems, PBL. I love the chapter here on Calcutta. So the Calcutta chapter is where I learned a lot, because I did not know a lot about Calcutta, and I'm very pleased that Eric Weiner included this chapter. So every Renaissance needs a Renaissance man or woman. Florence had Leonardo, Edinburgh had David Hume, Calcutta had Rabindranath Tagore, poet, essayist, dramatist, activist, Nobel Prize winner. He embodied the full flowering of the Bengal Renaissance. So I'm not going to read too much more from that. You should go and read this book. And then near the end of the book, I really liked his little comments about discernment. A better set of attributes, I think, and I'll jump on the alliteration bandwagon here, the 3 Ds, disorder, diversity, and discernment. Disorder, as we see, is necessary to shake up the status quo, to create a break in the air. Diversity of both people and viewpoints is needed to produce not only more dots, but also different kinds of dots. Discernment is perhaps the most important and overlooked ingredient. Linus Pauling, the renowned chemist and 2-time Nobel Prize winner, was once asked by a student how to come up with good ideas. "It's easy," replied Pauling. "You have lots of ideas, and then throw away the bad ones." I think Thomas Edison said something kind of similar. So as I was doing this review, I looked up Eric Weiner on YouTube. There's a wonderful talk. He gave a talk at Google. Go check this out. It's a full hour-long talk. And you can follow him on Twitter, Eric_Weiner. And you get more of his stuff and stay in the loop about maybe his next books. The Geography of Genius. I like this book. Thank you, Eric Weiner.